Like many other Yakuza fans, I gave up waiting for the release of Gotoku Ishin in English a long time ago. Originally released in Japan on both PS3 and PS4 in 2014, Gotoku Studios' take on the life of Ryoma Sakamoto was received well by both critics and fans in its home country. Does this spin-off game hold its own against the main series, or is it nothing but a distraction? Set in the late 1860s, at the end of Japan's Bakumatsu period, we follow an alternate history of Sakamoto Ryoma, one of Japan's most prolific figures. It's worth noting that Ryoma is a prominent figure in Japan. Every person at least knows a little of his history and legacy, making the events and character setting much more intriguing to those that know how the story is supposed to go. Ryoma was one of the primary figures in restoring the emperor to power and uniting Japan under a single ruling system, while also helping to bring Japan into the modern age. He was hunted by the men of the shogunate known as the Shinsengumi, and ultimately assassinated when he was only 31 years old. The game starts December 10th, 1867, the day Ryoma was supposed to die. The Shinsengumi attacks and slaughters everyone in the building, eventually finding Ryoma's corpse already slain before they could even reach him. His would-be assassin is revealed to be none other than Ryoma himself, leading us into the mystery of who actually died that day, before taking us back a year earlier to when Ryoma had returned home to Tosa. He's quickly offered a position in a rebel organization, which he begrudgingly accepts. Before he can do anything though, Ryoma's adoptive father is murdered, Ryoma is blamed, swears his revenge, flees Tosa, assumes the name Saito Hajime, and lives secretly in Kyoto while looking for the real murderer. Once the intro is out of the way, the game falls into the same Yakuza formula. Head into the pink marker on the map to forward the story, or try to find sub-stories around the world for experience and items. Overall, it's business as usual, although I can't help but feel it's a step back from Yakuza 5 by not having the sub-story markers on the map screen at the start of each chapter. The story is suitably epic for a man that literally changed Japan, and while sometimes converge on being too over the top, never loses the same Yakuza charm. The graphics are still not on par with other titles that came out around the same time, but given it was also released on the PlayStation 3 and is a stopgap between generations, it holds up pretty well. The PlayStation 4 version frame rate is solid, but you'll frequently clip through walls. The NPCs still pop in and the animations can look a little janky, but the level of detail in the world and the facial animation during cutscenes is great. The in-game map this time is bigger than any of the previous titles, but only about 4 areas really stand out. The rest looks like it could just have been copied and pasted, making the roads and alleyways feel all just boring and run down, instead of the densely packed design of Kamurocho. At its core, Ishin is like all previous Yakuza titles. You wander around town getting into brawls and occasionally forward the story with a very lengthy cutscene, which is usually followed by more brawling. The battle system has been given a complete overhaul, providing 4 different fighting styles, all of which can be leveled up separately using a style-specific sphere grid. Each grid can be leveled by either earning spheres through fighting or using a specific weapon style. On the fly, you can swap Ryoma's fighting style to suit the situation, each with its own perks. Hand-to-hand is great for counters and is the only style where you can pick up weapons. The single sword style is easily the strongest and allows you to completely block most enemy attacks, be they bullets or swords. Using your gun lets you attack from range while using specially designed bullets that cause status effects. And the Wild Dance style lets you take on large groups of enemies in successive 360-degree movement, but you lose the ability to defend completely. All of these styles sound great, but I did find myself relying a little too much on the single sword style more than any of the others, especially when enemies start using guns, blocking becomes crucial. The fighting styles tie directly into the gameplay loop of upgrading your weapons. This is where the grind begins. Buy a base piece of equipment you want to upgrade, then grind for the best upgrade materials and cash. Once you've got what you need, upgrade your equipment to a stronger version. As you upgrade, you'll also get the ability to slot status effects on your equipment, from fire swords to life regen hats. This is a great system in theory, offering you a ton of customization, but one that starts to get very tedious after a while, and doubly so if you're after the Platinum Trophy, which requires you to upgrade every weapon to max. The upgrade system is helped by the inclusion of the battle dungeons, a set of 40 missions separate from the main game you can take on that allow you to run through levels fighting waves of bad guys until you reach the end, which usually culminates in a boss fight. The fighting mechanics for these are completely different from the main game also. When you pick your level, you can choose 3 different cards to bring with you. Each card has a specific passive or active skill you can activate that will aid you in your run. Be it a health boost, a strength boost, or upping item discovery rates. These dungeons are designed to be run over and over again to gain upgrade items, experience, and cash that can be used to enhance your equipment or buy more cards. Cards can be found either by completing sub-stories throughout the world or buying them with in-game money from randomized packs. If you're lucky, you'll get the whole set. The other big change to Ishin is the farming-based Another Life mode. Meet up with Haruka and you open up the farm completely separate from the main game, where you can plant and grow crops, look after stray animals, and upgrade the house, all in order to create food items you can sell for cash or bring with you in battle to gain status buffs when eating. It's a fun distraction, and honestly something I had way more fun playing through than I thought I would. A lot of the grind in this game is meant for the add-on Vita app that launched alongside the main game. All of the farming, crafting, and dungeon running are all designed for you to do on the go and sync your progress back to the main game, which definitely helps alleviate the grind, but if you don't have the Vita, or you are playing on a non-Japanese PSN account, you won't be able to make use of the app at all. It's worth mentioning, but won't be taken into account with our score. The main things you'd expect from a Yakuza title are back. Play spots, karaoke, dancing, fishing, chicken racing, even the arena makes its return. There's a ton to do, and each spot usually ties into a sub-story, but don't add a lot to the main game. That being said, I had a ton of fun with the karaoke minigame belting out old-fashioned songs, or the dancing minigame featuring amazing dance mixes of traditional style music. They did a fantastic job of mashing together both modern day style with classic aesthetic. Every time I ran past the anachronistic Don Quixote, I couldn't help but smile at the jingle being played on a traditional instrument. Bounty hunting also makes a return, tasking Ryoma to seek out wanted men's locations and take them out one by one for a reward. Eventually earning battle cards and upgrade materials, it's a fun distraction, but never elevates into anything more. The Virya and Dharma system is also a new feature that shakes up how the game itself is played. Rewarding Ryoma for every action he takes in the game with points you can spend on a huge list of unlocks that includes everything from the distance you can run without getting tired to the size of your farm in Another Life. It's another system I personally found a bit grind heavy, but you unlock Dharma at a pretty steady rate that makes it not too cumbersome. There's no hostesses this time around, so instead they've added a friendship meter to nearly every vendor and NPC around the world. Everyone wants you to be their friend, and the more you talk to them or do odd jobs, their bar will go up. Maxing it out will usually give you a unique in-game scene with them and a few thousand points of Dharma, so it's worth at least befriending who you can. The spin-off Yakuza games are a chance for Gotoku Studio to take some risks with their engine and gameplay styles. For me, they've completely paid off. Definitely on the grind-heavy side, but a fantastic cast and an intriguing setting with an alt history story work well merging the ridiculousness and the seriousness we've come to love from the series. Ishin is definitely a high point in terms of experimentation with the usual formula. It's not a must for every fan, but anyone that does decide to import this and wade through the overbearing wall of Japanese will be rewarded with a deep, well-crafted, and overall fun game about being one of the most prolific figures in Japanese history.
納得いったか